and welcome back to the Review of Death, your fortnightly home for Doctor Who news and reviews. I'm Matthew Toffolo. I'm joined as ever by Billy Garratt-John, but we're not fortnightly, are we, this week, Billy? We're going weekly.
No. Hey, everybody likes a bit more Rod. I'm just keeping an eye on the stream and making sure we're going to pop up. There's the logo. Look at that. Oh no, there we are.
Yeah, you were Zoom for a second. I ballsed up, but it's fine. I think we're live. Is it working?
Yes.
People in the comments.
Billy's
a bit quiet. That's fine.
I can do this. I can sit on the mic.
There we go.
That would help people.
There we go. I've also hired you up a little bit. So
thanks for the hire.
There we go.
Beautiful.
How is everybody? Everyone good?
Yeah, looks like it. Apart from everyone saying Billy's a bit louder, everyone's doing good.
Billy too quiet. It'll catch up.
Hello. Hello.
I've hired you up in my ears, and you're exponentially loud.
We don't want that. Kiss the mic. It's not going to happen. You perv.
ASMR Billy.
Still low, all good. Okay, we're getting thumbs up now. I think people are telling us it's.
Is it better?
Fine.
Is it better? Fine. I did try and keep you louder at the start, but it's still. It's hard to gauge. Anyway, nice.
Yes.
I have that T-shirt. This one, Doctor Who, Tom Baker. My nephew's got me this. It's bloody boiling. Someone said it is boiling. It's hot over here, Billy.
Is it?
It's freaking baking.
It's just started getting cold.
Oh, it's boiling here. Absolutely boiling. After months of rain and greyness and just shitty weather, it's bright, it's sunny, it's nice. I think it's going to go crappy tomorrow. From tomorrow, I think it goes back to being miserable again.
As it should do. Everybody should have miserable weather. If prophetic fallacy, if Doctor Who has anything to say about it. Although, hey, let's put this out first, eh?
Someone said I'm too loud.
Oh, for God's sake!
Mate, mind up. I'll move away from the. I'll move away from the microphone. There we go.
Yes, there you go. Zuma, it is currently 7 minutes past. No, it's 3 minutes past 7 in the morning here in NZ. I think we should first of all say,
yes,
please no shithousing in the comments because. A, we'll see them, and B, we've got a mod for the first time ever.
We do.
The lovely Macra is in charge of things. So, I don't know, is that good etiquette to say the name of your mod so that are they going to get shit now?
No, I think that's fine. Thank you very much, Macra. Not only thank you for moderating, but thank you for working out how to become a moderator. So, because it's not like I work on YouTube or anything, but I don't know how this stuff works.
No, it's not like this is his bread and butter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we get into the episodes themselves, what time did you watch this? Oh, well, you watched on Disney Plus, didn't you?
Yes, I was going to ask you exactly the same thing. I watched it at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning, which was the midnight drop in the UK and the 7 p.m. in the US.
Yeah, see, what a lovely time for you. I watched it at 7 in the morning-ish the next morning. Not by choice, it was just we happened to wake up super early. So we ended up watching both back-to-back. I gotta say, I was kind of annoyed that you had watched it before me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, what a heartbreak.
I was like, oh, that bastard's watched him.
I was in Liverpool once for the weekend. And I went to a wrestling show and I got really drunk. And then I can't remember what it was. The Witchfinders was going out that night, and I called you walking home to my hotel.
I remember that. I remember this. Yeah.
I'm gonna get something terrible is gonna happen to me on the streets of Liverpool, and I thought as long as I'm on the phone, somebody will know something bad's happened, and I'll find out what happened on Doctor Who tonight.
Very good.
And so that worked out well, but yeah. I don't really know how to start this.
Don't know how to start this. Well, before we get into it, Lewis has very kindly donated us some money and said, Matt's new favourite episodes, calling it now, with a winky face. That was I'm glad you added the winky face.
Yeah, right.
Right, let's get it. Before we go into each episode individually, shall we just say just a quick thumbs up or thumbs down for both episodes? So, Space Babies.
So for both. Oh, okay, right. Okay. So, Space Babies.
You gave it a thumbs up, right? I knew you were going to do that, you tosspot, right? If you fancy being the new co-host of the Review of Death, fucking leave a comment in the chat. Right, okay. I dread to think how highly you're going to rate this pile of babies droppings.
It's babies droppings now. We've upgraded from whippet shit.
We've upgraded it from whippet shit. Well, yeah, apparently I'm loud. Apparently I'm a loud boy. I'll turn myself down a bit. There we are. Okay, well, as you can probably tell, I did not enjoy the Space Babies. What about the Devil's Chord? Ooh, there's thinking going on here.
A thumbs in the middle and a thumbs down. I have to say, there were loads of bits in it I liked.
Okay.
In that second one. And it was better in a lot of regards than I thought it was going to be, especially when it came to the Beatles.
Right.
But that last 2 minutes fucking killed me, man.
Yeah, that was pretty wank. So should we get into it? Let's get into it. Season opener, Space Babies.
Yes.
I'm promising myself that after we do this review, I never have to hear the term Space Babies ever again because it got said.
They like that line.
Oh dear! Every 5 minutes. Yeah, we get it, Doctor. They're space babies. You've said it enough. We get it. It's not that funny.
Yes. So let's have a look at the kind of great pantheon of opening stories for Doctor Who. You've got your Roses.
Yeah.
You've got your New Earths. You've got your 11th Hours.
Yeah.
I mean, this wasn't up there in terms of, quality in a kind of traditional Doctor Who sense of it was fluff, it was light, it was breezy. That was the thing that a lot of reviews were saying, kind of coming straight out of it.
Yeah.
Was it's loads of fun and they bring loads of energy to it. But, it was light on not just for spoiler reasons. It was light on a lot of that, but it was light on talking about it, I guess, because there wasn't an awful lot to talk about. But I am okay with that for an opening episode, because I think an opening episode is more about introducing the new team, seeing what this Doctor's about for the most part.
Right.
And, kind of getting the core concepts over, which I think is even more important now that we're introducing this to a whole new audience internationally.
Yeah.
I think it's fine for the first one to not be super high concept or super lore dumpy, even though there was quite a bit of that actually that took me by surprise. There was a lot of chat about history,
Very surprising to see how, when you compare it to how Russell did it previously, that suddenly this time we just get literally the Cliff's Notes version of Doctor Who in the first 10 minutes. Now, I must say, I enjoyed the first 12 minutes. I thought the first 12 minutes were fine. I didn't mind the info dump. I thought, it's not something that we've really sort of had done before. So I thought, well, that's fine. Let's go with that. So that was okay. But as soon as I saw that baby zip round that corner in that pram, beeping, and talking with the creepiest uncanny valley mouth, I was just like, nah, that's it. I'm out.
I will say about the baby's mouths, that sounds like I'm going to say something mad right now, but I will say I've seen worse.
Oh yeah.
In terms of that style of animation. Yeah. I saw somebody saying, if you're not going to do it right, just have them speak telepathically. And it's like, what, that would look awful. What would you just be looking at babies sort of absentmindedly looking around the room and gurgling, it's like, so they couldn't have done it any other way. I thought that they kept the shots quite short, which was good.
Babies,
the most part of the babies talking.
Yeah.
And whoever the baby wrangler was on set got the kind of facials out of them they needed to, and all the action and the pointing, and that was all grand.
I was surprised actually at how well some of that stuff actually did work. So I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
He's already conceding, and we're just on the baby's mouths.
I won't go that far. I won't go as far as conceding. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really got masses to say about this story. I mean, there isn't really much of a story. It is literally just there's some babies in space on a space station. They're trapped. The systems have all gone wrong. They've got the brains of, what is it, like 6-year-olds? Their education's like heightened. Something like that, isn't it? Which, I mean, even that's a bit of a stretch because my nephews are like 7 and 10 and they couldn't operate a space station between them. So
what a pair. That's the English education system for you. That's failing them massively.
And like, how would they can't even blow their own noses. This makes no sense. It's just dawned on me. They can't even blow their own noses. So how did they construct all the like Wallace and Gromit-esque like pointers and like finger things to press the buttons?
It was Nanny.
No, but no one saw her. She hid away.
True.
Maybe when they were having a nap, she crept in.
Maybe when they were having a nap. And how did they get
their
high
nappies?
Up enough to? Oh, let's not even go there. How did they get up high enough to scrawl on the walls when they're like crawly babies?
Yeah.
But they are 6, so maybe they can walk. It's just that.
Well, they're 6. They're 6 in the mind. They're not 6 in.
No, they're not 6 in body. They're 6 in mind. But maybe that means they've developed walking, even though the muscles can't do it at that age. Fuck knows. Why are we trying to go that deep into space babies? This is not gonna pan out well. My first point.
Okay.
Let's get away from the crunch of the story and talk about they fixed the logo.
Yeah.
But I don't think they've necessarily fixed the title sequence. I think that new shot they've added, where you see the TARDIS kind of blinking and then we follow it into the vortex.
Yeah.
I much preferred, even though it was a hard cut and maybe didn't look quite as nice, I much preferred that original shot kind of zooming out of the TARDIS as it comes out of the cloud.
Oh yeah, that was
specials titles.
That was cool. I didn't mind this new shot.
No, I don't know. I miss that old look. Now it's old, even though it was brand new a week ago. But yeah, they've animated the logo nicely, so everybody can stop going on about that, which is nice. I
mean, it certainly looks better. I didn't think it was
whack, but
yeah, I think there were some timing issues. I think the logo's better. I don't necessarily think it's brilliant, like the way it appears. I think it seems a bit. I don't know. Maybe it could have been a bit more flashy. I don't know. Someone has just posted a comment. In fact, there's 2 comments to talk about here. Charles Highgrove has said, "Can people stop saying that it's okay for a first episode to be fluff? It's not 2007 again. The first episode should have been incredible and blown everyone away. No excuses." I kind of agree with him. I gotta say, I think for an episode that was supposed to not only bring in the old audience, but obviously bringing a new audience, especially a huge international audience, the amount of money that has clearly been spent on the marketing in America to make this seem like this is a big deal, and that's your opening episode. I mean, I'm amazed. I'd be amazed. I'd love to see what the viewing figures are on Disney Plus for like the States.
Did they release those?
They never do. Disney Plus are very, very coy with that sort of thing. But I'd love to know. I want to know if Americans saw that and just thought, fuck this.
Hey, look, compared to most of the shit they're used to watching, this is probably, I mean, it's Shakespearean compared to The Good Doctor. I would say one man's Paradise Towers is another man's Caves of Androzani. So, cum si, cum sa. Is that what that means?
Not many. It's not many men's Caves of Androzani.
I've just seen as well. We've had a super chat.
Yes.
£10. Wow. Thank you. This is Terminus. That's very, very generous of you. Good evening to you both. Love both you lads and the wonderful content we've been getting from Matt. From one Matt to another.
Thank you, Matt.
How nice is that?
That's
very, very
kind
of you.
Thank you.
So I think it's okay. I mean, look at New Earth. New Earth. I mean, it wasn't setting up the concepts for
Yeah.
a whole new generation of fans.
No.
So I kind of understand where people are coming from that department, but it is fluff. Smith and Jones is fluff.
Smith and
Partners in
Jones
Crime
is fluff. Yeah.
is fluff.
Oh, that is true. Yeah.
The pilot is kind of fluffy. It's
Yeah.
not quite as sort of damp, carved. Na 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 na. It isn't quite, those Murray Gold levels. But it's okay that Doctor Who doesn't take itself seriously one week to the next. That's the kind of wonderful thing about it.
No.
I do think, in contrast to, say, the Star Beast, which felt like a massive kind of whoa, holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay, it's fine if you anticipated that or wanted that to happen, but it's okay that it kind of wasn't this Oscar-worthy, Blink-esque, kind of super deep, introspective thing,
Yeah, and I think opening episodes tend not to be that anyway, historically. But I do think, like you said, with comparison to the Star Beast was such a solid opener. And it really just lay the groundwork for what was going to come next. Yeah, I don't know. I was hoping for something. Well, yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, I'd have liked something like that. I wasn't really expecting much because we'd heard from people who had seen it that this was always going to be quite a Marmite episode, I think. You either going to love it or hate it. Radio Times, 2 reviews from the Radio Times, but long-time reviewer Patrick Mulcan, he was not a fan of Space Babies at all. He gave it 2 stars, which I thought was interesting. Ian Levine, who we often take the mickey out of, but I gotta say, he hated it as well.
About this.
He is right about this. It is the one time I will say I agree with Ian Levine.
We should say also hello. Oh my God! Thank you for $10 from Chronoculars. Yank here with an anecdote of all my friends that tuned in. Not many. They were all bloody confused. Not everyone has a personal hooligan who can explain everything. I like that term. Can we replace Hoovian? Fucking hell! It's so early. I can't speak properly. And Gordon has donated 50 to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't
Gordon.
shit on Paradise Towers. That is almost my Caves of Androzani. I love Paradise Towers, Gordon. I love Paradise Towers. It's this fecker here who doesn't.
Actually, we did the review, Johnny and I, and were you there? I can't remember if you were in that.
No, I don't think I was.
Were you there?
Nice to see that I'm keenly missed in Bristol.
Oh dear! I think that was when you were on one of your excursions, wasn't it? Was it? And it was just Johnny and I.
Yeah,
no, we did that one together. I think we did that one, all 3 of us.
Oh fuck! I don't know. Timey-wimey.
Dear. Timey-wimey.
I want to say,
right,
going back to the episode.
Yes.
That whole dinosaur excursion at the start.
Yes.
Do you think that was, like Russell said about the opening of the church on Ruby Road? Do you think that was a Disney highlighter pen? We need some more action in here. Can you do something with dinosaurs? Do you think that might have been, because it kind of, I guess it introduces the concept of we can go anywhere.
Yeah.
But considering the fact that episode 2 that follows directly after in terms of broadcasting, they go back in time and the Doctor's saying we can travel anywhere.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to the future in a minute. Do you think they went, maybe they think I can only travel one way. We need to go back the ways, see? And
maybe,
they were,
maybe. Who knows? Who knows what they're saying? Who knows what they're whispering in Russell's ear?
Just a flag for Macra, our mod. There's a lunatic in the comments.
I know.
Lewis, who's kindly donated £5. Matt, do you want to read that comment out?
Lewis has said Space Babies is better than Pyramids of Mars. So Lewis is now banned. Perma-banned.
That might be a perma block.
He's even
Lewis,
put,
careful.
come at me, Matthew Toffolo. Oh my God.
Ouch.
Dear me. But men in
Lewis,
white coats will do that.
I think you're getting your money refunded, said Lee. I think he's right. Couple of interesting references at the start as well. How did you think that butterfly gag played out?
It was fine. It was okay. I mean, I don't really get what he did. Did he blow regeneration energy into the butterfly?
He did. I was thinking of you when that happened, because I know you don't like the fact that the Doctor just has these kind of mystical, magical powers. But if you don't like that, then you're going to fucking hate the rest of this season, because it seems very mystical and magical, doesn't it?
It certainly does. So that was fine. I just, yeah, it was okay. It was a fun way of showing that Doctor Who can be weird and wonderful. And it was, I thought she did it quite well. Millie Gibson, the difference in her character, that was fun.
I would like to also just, I'm not trying not to derail this, and I promise this isn't going to be like the other times I've brought up how much I like Millie Gibson.
Yes.
I would like to say that I think Millie Gibson is an absolute fucking revelation. And as much as I like Shooty, right? Millie Gibson for me is the MVP of this series so far. I think she is gold.
What weed are you smoking down there, Billy?
It's quite strong. I think I got something called AK-47 the other day.
I can tell. Jesus Christ. I mean, she was fine. That's all I thought. She was fine.
Watch her again. Watch what? How many times have you watched these?
I have watched The Devil's Chord twice, and I have watched the opening of Space Babies twice.
Okay.
And the end.
Her like off-camera acting,
right,
where she's just sort of following Shooty down a corridor, or he's turned his back to her. And so realistically, you'd think the audience are like, because he's talking, we're going to snap attention to Shooty.
Yeah.
And this is not me, again, talking about Millie Gibson in the way that I've talked about Millie Gibson in the past. I couldn't take my eyes off her.
Okay.
She has got she's got a really sparkly screen presence, I think. Okay. And she really reminds me of like a live action Lucy Miller. She's got that sort of, ballsy kind of thing. It's nice to hear a companion with a kind of with a northern accent as well. You know? I mean, it's a little bit kind of clipped and nipped and tucked here, the accent, but I think she was fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of her through the series. Don't take that out of context.
Okay.
What did you think of Millie?
I mean, I thought she was fine. I thought she was fine. I don't think the character, at least at the moment, I don't think the character, I don't know, isn't as necessarily, I don't think you can get on the same level as her as like with Rose, you know what I mean? Rose felt like such a real person, and I don't necessarily feel that here. I think that Ruby Sunday's almost got that sort of slight Moffat element to her as a companion, in that she's sort of a human being that is like heightened, you know what I mean? Whereas Rose felt very much like a person you could bump into and actually know. At times I think that she's a bit like, okay, I don't know if you feel like a character. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, I can see that. I think the problem with that though is, I think so much of this is being built up as like a fantasy mystery.
Yeah.
So whereas you've got something nebulous like the girl who waited, the woman who lived, the girl in the short skirt that I look through glass tables at.
Yes.
I think that, she is surrounded by the kind of fantasy. So she's kind of drawn into that mystery box element more so than just having something slapped on her.
Yeah.
It's like established from the start. There's something weird going on. And obviously, we've got those threads that we'll pull on later that seem to be leading towards the finale and what's to come.
Yeah.
But I think that rather than having that title forced on her, it seems like it feels to me more like she's being dropped into that kind of moniker of, the girl who shouldn't exist, or the foundling, or whatever.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel quite as tacked on and labeled for a poster as Moffat felt to me personally. And I think she's acting beyond that as well.
Yeah.
I think there's a tendency with companions who have got that sort of mystery box character to them to try and like Jenna Coleman, she's always got that kind of slight twinkle in her eye. That's like kind of, I'm kind of, I was going to say minxy. That's not at all the term I'm looking for. But, I'm kind of like,
yes.
I am a bit of a mystery wrapped in a short skirt. And I don't think Millie's doing that. She's playing, however old she's supposed to be, like 19 or something.
Yeah.
And she's playing that and just happens to be surrounded by all this funky fantasy stuff. So I don't know if I follow that so much.
I mean, I was quite surprised that, the whole thing, it does have, I mean, it is very much Amy Pond or Clara. No, is it Amy Pond? I think it's Amy Pond, isn't it? When the Doctor has that moment. Yeah, it was. It was in Day of the Moon, wasn't it? Because we'd watched that earlier in the year. And
when he scans her.
It's a lot of sort of building off of that kind of thing, which I was quite surprised by. I didn't think we'd necessarily see anything like that. But it's kind of nice to see that the Doctor, although obviously really likes her and wants her around and thinks she's a good laugh or whatever, it's nice to see that there's also a slight ulterior motive that, actually, I really do want to get to the bottom of what is going on with you, because it keeps coming up, doesn't it? He keeps making a point of saying, it's always about babies with you. It always comes back to Christmas Eve. And then, of course, we had that great scene where they're in the corridor and it starts snowing. And he's like, this is like some sort of weird echo. I've never seen anything like this before. So I like that stuff. And obviously it started snowing in the TARDIS as well. Little tidbit for you. The image of Ruby Sunday on the scanner that's going around, that is actually the CAD file of the character options figure.
Hey, little preview for you all there. Nice. I like that.
There it is.
That is the most insidious bit of advertising the BBC have ever done. That is the true mark that Disney are in charge of this fucking show now. Is they're advertising in the show.
In the show.
It's turned into fucking He-Man.
And there was something else that I really liked, which probably went over everyone's heads, but I was like, that's like old Doctor Who. At the beginning, when we see her going into the TARDIS, that's all a new shot, isn't it? This is all a new take, her going into the TARDIS. Until she's actually in there and we cut to Shooty saying, I'm the Doctor. And it just made me think of like, it's like when they would do it in the 60s and they'd remount it the following week and it would be ever so slightly different. The take would be not quite there.
See, it's still the same old show, people. Don't worry about it. It's
still the same old shit.
We should reply to this super chat from John Smith. Doctor Who no longer seems a mysterious character. I don't know, John. I didn't hear him say to Cherry and Carla what his name is. The door closed before he said it.
My name's Jeff.
And my name is Jeff. He still doesn't know where he's from. I think it's more mysterious now than it was at the end of Jodie's tenure, personally.
Do you think? I mean, I don't know. I hope we don't hear this every bloody episode. I was adopted.
I think we probably will.
Oh, God, come on.
Is that so different to... I'm the last of the Time Lords.
Well, he keeps going on about that and all. It's like,
what do you think of the genocide term that keeps popping up? Because it kept being mentioned to the extent where you think this isn't going to get dropped, and they're quite pointedly using that term.
I mean, I definitely think we're obviously getting slightly ahead of ourselves, but Susan Twist's character, she's going to end up being a Time Lord. There's going to be some revelation that he is not the last of the Time Lords. Or something, for sure. And obviously we know that the Master still exists in some capacity, albeit as a gold tooth, but, he's out there. The whole Gallifrey Time Lord thing is a funny one, isn't it, really? Because obviously the way it was dealt with under Chibnall was weird, and we talked about this last time. It was like, it sort of happened off screen and it didn't really carry much weight. And it feels like now the Doctor's sort of dealing with it a bit more. It's kind of funny, though, because the Doctor feels like he's carrying all this baggage around with him. Like, I'm the last of the Time Lords. I don't know who my parents are. And all my people are dead. But I thought the whole point of the end of the giggle was like I've been to therapy, babes. I'm fine. I'm...
That was that one.
Yeah.
That was the other one.
That was the other one. Oh, right.
That was David. David's fine.
Is he?
Although apparently he died in a whirlpool in Venice, according to RTD. What do you think of that? Because
what are you talking about?
So he said, well, he did an interview and Russell was asked, "Is David coming back?" And he went, "No, he went to Venice in the future and tried to save it from sinking and died in a whirlpool." So David Tennant is definitely not. That's the 14th Doctor we're talking about, not David Tennant. He's alive and well. Yeah, he said he's gone and he's not coming back, which is like, the showrunner lies. So, we'll see. We should also say very, very briefly, more noise is being made about the land between the war and the sea.
Okay.
Kicking into production. And I don't know if this is totally accurate. People in the chat can tell me, but I did see a quote from, I think it's 73 steps or 73 yards.
Right. Oh yeah, he mentions it, doesn't he? He says something about
something about the war between the land and the sea.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to come back in that show.
David
I don't know what
think?
Russell's. I think so. It's like we said before. It's like it needs a marquee kind of name.
Yeah.
And I don't know who else they bring in. Maybe they'll find an amazing guest star, but I think for Doctor Who fans, it needs a recognizable Doctor Who name, and I think for outside Doctor Who fans, it needs a recognizable name. And David was perfect for that for the 60th. So I can imagine him being like the unit Doctor.
Oh yeah, maybe. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if it gets, when it officially gets announced, what ends up happening with that.
Yeah.
But going back to Mad Genocide and Time Lords, obviously in the second episode, he goes into a slightly bit more detail about that, and then he says something like, "Oh, it rippled through time and like wiped out anyone with Time Lord DNA," and
Thanos click.
Yeah, like a Thanos click. And I was like, well, I clearly missed that in Chris Chibnall's script, and I think Chris Chibnall missed that in his own script. I'm sure he heard that and thought, what?
Yeah, it's a little bit convenient, that, isn't it? That so what about, like the Master surviving or other Time Lords, so cellular, on a cellular temporal level, when they all died, everybody else who just happened to not be on that planet at that time also was wiped out.
Yeah.
So
the Rani was doing the washing up, and she just died.
What did you think of the Rani mention? Do you think that's Russell sort of saying, whoever you think Susan Twist might end up being, at least we can get that out of the way, it's not her?
That's a very good point. I hadn't thought of it like that, but I think, maybe you're onto something there. Maybe that was a way of saying, cross her off the list.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
Yes, a bit of a shame, but I think that's fine, because I think there's a possibility we could have maybe a slightly closer character to the Doctor coming back in the form of Susan.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in a bit.
Is that why she was cast? It'll be a twist. A Susan twist. Involving... Oh my God, there's a woman in Spotlight called Susan Twist.
It will be Russell going, well, we got to the end of the day, and we'd auditioned loads of people, and then she was the last person who came in, and I looked at her name, and she was brilliant. She just sparkled. She was fantastic, and we had to cast her. You were talking then about the kind of genocide and all the Time Lords being wiped out through time and stuff. Most of the universe's knackered babes reference to Flux, so maybe sort of throwing out there, hey, if things aren't quite right, we can put it down to the Flux. Maybe Chris Chibnall is a secret genius. I mean, not a secret genius. He's great, I think. Maybe Chris Chibnall is like, hey, maybe all the Doctor Who writers just need a little bit of grace in the future. If things aren't quite right, or if things go a bit tits up, they can just say Flux.
Flux happens, not shit happens. Flux happens.
Yeah, Flux happens. That's a t-shirt coming to the review of Death's Door very shortly, I would imagine. Okay.
What else about this story?
Well, I think we should talk about Shooty.
Yes.
Because we haven't talked about Shooty yet on New Doctor Who.
Yes.
Go.
I like him. I do like him. I liked him more in this episode than I did in Church on Ruby Road, simply because I got to see him do more doctory things. I think just having those sort of quieter moments with him and seeing his brain working and like pressing buttons and shit and doing doctory stuff, that helped secure him in my head.
Okay.
I've taken to him quicker than I took to Jodie. I mean, I never really took to Jodie
brilliant.
at all, but I've taken to him a lot faster. Obviously, he's incredibly charismatic. I think that whenever he's on screen, your eyes are sort of automatically drawn to him. Yeah, I think while he may not be how I see the Doctor, I think, you know, if this is this era's how this audience their Doctor, then I think, yeah, he works. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how he goes on. But at the moment, the first 2 stories promising, because obviously I think last time I said with the Church on Ruby Road, I was like, I can see bits of him that I might like, but I need to see a bit more of him before I make my mind up. And I think he's fine. Does do a lot of crying though.
Yeah, there was a bit in the Devil's Chord where he was crying, and they didn't really focus on it.
No, he just had a tear on his cheek, and I was like, "We've been crying again."
Yeah, he's like he's super emotive. I quite like that. You know, I think Russell said in interviews about Ncuti, it's like we've cast a man who couldn't hide an emotion if he tried. You know, like, and you can see that in him, like whatever he's feeling or thinking kind of pours out of him.
Yeah,
and I like that in a Doctor, because when we get to the parts of the character where he might have to be slightly duplicitous or, you know, whatever, that might be a downfall, or it might mean that we see another aspect to his character that we hadn't seen yet. And, you know, so I'm definitely, I think I said this about Jodie, and I'm not entirely sure we got it fully, but I liked her sort of, you know, gung-ho, we're having fun kind of approach to everything, because you know inevitably that will stop and something very serious is going to happen. And I think maybe having Ncuti cry as much as he does might cheapen it sort of down the line.
Yeah.
But I am looking forward to, in contrast to him being quite jolly and up for it,
yeah,
that when that suddenly changes in a finale or whatever, when he encounters the Daleks again or whatever it might be, I'm looking forward to that being flipped on its head and maybe having like a solemn Ncuti for an episode or 2 and seeing how he does that.
Yeah.
Because it's always the same with a Doctor. You want to see the range as early as possible before you gauge whether you're on board with them.
Yeah.
And I think we got part of what he's capable of. I don't think we've really scratched the surface with him yet.
No.
But I think that I'm a big fan. I think he's good. I need to see more of that deeper emotional stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally speaking, I'm a fan of what he's doing so far.
Yeah. Yeah, same really. I mean, I think the trouble with him being almost too emotional, in a sense, at least from my point of view, is that I kind of like when the Doctor is emotionally detached, as they usually are, 9 times out of 10, that when they do show an emotion of, you know, any kind, you know, if it's sad, you know, deep sadness, overwhelming sadness, then it really hits you. And then you think, oh, hang on. Then you really know that shit's going down, because if the Doctor's starting to show it, then you know, oh boy, it's happening. Whereas obviously with this, you know, you end up with 2 stories back to back where the Doctor's like running around going, oh, I've run away from this thing. I never run away from things. You know, and then you're like, well, you've just ran away from things 2 episodes on the trot, mate. In fact, Annie's friend turned around and said, he's a bit wimpy.
Well, that came round to, you know, having a decent explanation. You know, what do you think of the bogeyman?
On the snot man. Well, I mean, I thought he looked great. I mean, a great piece of design, Mr. Bogeyman. I saw someone else on Twitter say the same as me from the other day, that it looks like the Vindaloo monster, the Vindaloo beast from Red Dwarf. But what really annoyed me was the fact that we had this whole thing of like, oh, he's the only one of his kind. We can't let him get sucked out into space. Ugh. Not that old chestnut again. It's a fucking giant bogey. For God's sake. If it was John Pertwee, he'd have said, "Bring it in, blow the bloody thing up, and let's go home." And Tom.
Would he though, or would he have Doctor Who and the Silurians did it and got really pissy about it?
Nah, he'd have just gone, it's snot, Brigadier, blow the bloody thing up.
Fucking blow the bastard to smithereens.
Eccleston would have gone, yeah, I'll twat the cunt.
Or fucking lump him one. I think that we're kind of going back into that old territory of, oh, it's not a monster. It's only misunderstood, and that's fine for the first one. I don't think that we're gonna have to worry too much about Shooty doing that later down the line.
I hope not.
I don't think so. But then, as well, we're used to that being a trope in Doctor Who.
Yes.
New fans aren't, and they also, I think, need reinforcement of what he was saying earlier about last of his kind. And it sort of sets up the Doctor's morals.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He didn't sort of go through the checklist of, I don't do guns, I don't do da-da-da, I don't do da-da-da. And that's it, Ruby, here's your TARDIS key. He didn't do that. So I think...
The only thing that really won me back over with this was when I suddenly remembered that in the church on Ruby Road, he impaled the Goblin King with a church spire. And I thought, oh, hang on. He has his moments. You're all right. Okay, you can have that one.
He'll turn into a killer soon, Matt. Don't worry. When you like your Doctor's genocidal and evil, he'll get there. Evil Shooty is on his way. Tharies with
Shooty
a
by name,
£10
Shooty by
donation. Shooty by name. Tharies, thanks for the £10 donation. I think RTD wants a more open Doctor, but I think there is such a thing as being overly emotional. I fear the lack of impact when he does it at bigger moments.
Yes, exactly.
Love him though otherwise. I would agree with that. I think they're like having an overuse of the Daleks and them losing their their potency. I think there could be an element of that with Shooty. As you say, I didn't realize, it will be a run of 4 episodes in which he's burst into tears in every single one. So I can kind of see where that might be a bit of a thing. Maybe
that's his thing. Maybe in terms of Doctors, what's the 14th Doctor's? No, he's 15th, isn't he? What's the 15th Doctor's thing? He's the teary Doctor.
Maybe Al could add that as a feature in the new action figure.
Yes, yeah.
Like one of those
baby,
like
a baby doll.
Yeah, just fill Shooty with water from the back and squeeze his tummy, and he'll start crying.
The blubbing Doctor.
The blubbing Doctor. I did the bit that sold me for him was, and this is so classic Doctor Who, isn't it? When he grabs Ruby when they hear the roar of the monster.
Yes.
And they both spin around and they grab each other.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is so Pat Troughton.
It's very Pat Troughton. Very Pat Troughton.
And he's got that diminutive sort of frame as well.
Yeah.
And so I think it's okay.
Even although he is buff as buggery.
He's absolutely wham. But he's slight and he obviously emotes a lot. And we know that, Shooty's super into his kind of astrology and all that sort of stuff. So a Doctor will always bring themselves into the part.
Yes. Yeah.
And so if that's just what this Doctor does, it's just what this Doctor does, and we'll get used to that. But I do agree that it may kind of kneecap some of the more potent emotional moments a bit later on.
And I did like the moment where when they got into the lift, he put his hand over her eyes so she couldn't see the monster. Yeah. I thought that was very nice. I thought that was a really good touch.
That whole sequence, I was like, these two, I'm up for this.
That stuff was great, and I thought the stuff with the snot was fine. It was fun. It's no
It
more.
took her a little bit too long to figure out what it was.
He literally
had to say, "Are you fucking dumb, babe? It's fucking snot."
Yeah, I worked it out straight away. I was like, "Oh yeah, this is the noses." At least it wasn't a shit monster.
I was going to say, I've traveled through time, babes. I've seen some of the worst stuff in the universe. And for him to say bogies, it's like, that's probably all right. I thought it's rectal discharge.
Yes.
Because Nanny's had to sit in that chair. She's got a pipe that goes straight out of her chair down into the bowels of the ship. and she's just been letting it go. She's
not just the baby shit, is it? It's
not the baby shit. She can't move anywhere. She's on a liquid diet. That's what's on your head. I'm sorry. What did we think of Nanny? I loved the
the censorship jokes.
Yeah, illegitimate offspring, and you'll have no expletive dinner. That was great.
That was really good. Oh God, here we consent, shall we? Come on then. Right.
Here comes the elder statesman.
Oh my God, here he comes. Here he comes. He's wearing some Rod merch.
Yeah. How can I hear?
Oh yeah.
Oh, our internet connection is unstable.
That's because I've walked in.
Oh dear, that's a bit weird. Right, go on then. Put that on.
Can Matthew hear as well?
Well, I can sort of hear. I'll put my head.
Can people see my nice new T-shirt?
Yes, it looks beautiful.
Thank you for designing this, Billy. That was very kind of you. I was quite shocked when I opened this because I had no idea. You see that you designed this. So I opened it. I was like, "What is this?" But it's really good. So
happy birthday, lovely.
Thank you very much. That's very kind. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you, mate. I'm good. We are knee deep into bogies.
I know you are. I've been listening to the whole thing.
Marvelous.
Yeah. So
Johnny,
shall I tell you what I think?
I think you need to tell us what you thought of both of them. Yes, give us your rundown.
Well, let's stick with the baby analogy, shall we, to begin with. Let me give you a little explanation. When babies are born, right?
He's had two.
I've had two, so I know this stuff. When they come out and they have their first shit, right? It's called meconium. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
No. And meconium is basically a black and greeny, vile poo that come out for the first, one or two poos. And that's how I sum up that first episode. Meconium.
I could see that coming a fucking mile off. Meconium. Okay.
It's true.
Sure.
What
do you think?
Yeah, but you don't think so. I'm watching you in there, incredulous. That you actually like that story. I mean, what did
Johnny,
you like about
incredulous
it?
Toffolo. That's what we call you in this household.
Yeah,
we know. What did I like about it? I like shooty. I liked the setting. I liked the bogey monster. I liked the whole story times thing. I thought that was quite cool.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, not much else beyond that, but I like the tone of it overall.
Plot, the story. I mean, I think that for both of them, really.
Yes, I mean they were waffle thin on plot,
just a bit,
but I think that's okay.
I'm laughing at the chat. People are like, "What a stream! You learn so much here. Good God,
this is a good time. And educational as well."
We're better than the BBC. We're here to entertain, educate.
Yeah.
We are
motivate,
informed all round. Johnny, what did you think of the Devil's Chord?
It was better than the first one. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
The musical sort of side of things. Yeah, obviously, I'm a bit of a musician myself, so it's quite nice to have that in Doctor Who. I thought the Beatles stuff was shame that only two of them were really featured. And there were no Beatles numbers. I thought maybe better to do a Beatles number at the end than that awful thing that they decided to do. But
well, yeah, or even I mean, we'll get onto it when we do the Devil's Chord. But even to have the song they did do the Glee number 2, if they'd given that to just the Beatles and had them in the recording studio and the final scene was them just doing that, it's like because the story's about them.
Yeah. Well, you'd have thought so, but they were on the periphery, really. I thought.
Yeah. It did feel like it.
Yeah.
Someone just put you wouldn't get this on the official Doctor Who podcast. That's for certain.
You wouldn't.
No.
I tell you what, you also get here that you don't over there.
Better views.
For watching.
So I didn't hate the second one. I was quite entertained by it, really.
Yeah, we
quite enjoyed it. It was fine.
Okay.
I mean, after the first one, I did think, oh bollocks, is this the way things are going? Because I didn't like the Christmas one. I didn't like that first one.
No.
And then I thought, but then I thought, oh no, it wasn't too bad, the second one. I've got to say about Shooty, though, I didn't like his costume in the beginning of the TARDIS in the second one, those pair of Levi jeans and an orange t-shirt. They got a sort of costume out. It's too sort of modern and cash.
It was interesting that, especially because then she goes, well, we need to change our clothes.
And she looked perfectly fine.
You're wearing is fine.
Yeah, she was ready to go out in the 60s.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, they look great. any excuse to have California soul play in the background there. What do you think of the kind of those kind of more modern elements of the show creeping in, Johnny? Like you've got your, diegetic, non-diegetic thing going on. What do you think the fourth wall breaks?
Interesting. Yeah. Don't know, really. I think by then I switched off. I don't want too many of those. I don't think.
No, you don't want it all the time. But I think it works for that story.
Yeah. And I thought Jinx Monsoon was very, very good.
Yeah.
Good.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jinx was good fun.
Yeah.
And what are you thinking sort of go later down the line in terms of the rest of the series? Do you like the look of the Boom story and all the stuff that's still to come?
The third one.
That's the next one.
It looked interesting, the little clip that I saw. Yeah, I mean, see how Mr. Moffat gets on with that one, but
So I just put Doctor Who and the Meconium of Death.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, so out of 10 meconiums, can you give us your score for the first one and for the second one?
Out of 10, 1 for the first one.
Yeah.
And the second
one...
A
single lumpy meconium.
Yeah, and then for the second one, I'd say maybe out of 10, 3 or 4.
What?
No, am I being a bit harsh?
Bloody hell, yeah. Come on, it was better than that.
All right, 5 then. I'll say 5.
What?
So a bit more fiber in that one.
Yeah, a bit more fiber.
More solid.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I'd give it at least a 6.
Would you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm more on Johnny's side with that.
Oh, interesting. Well, we've got all that to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, at least we've still got classic Who. That's all I can say. Yeah, that's the main thing. Watching season 15 the other day, I thought, here we go. Proper Doctor Who.
Proper stuff.
I was going to ask this question to Matt later on, but now you're here as well, Johnny. I'll ask both of you now.
Go on then.
Did you feel like
shooting myself?
Having a big meconium over the TV.
Yeah. Well,
the build up to this has kind of been Matt's been feeling quite down about, the lead up to it.
Yeah, I know he has.
And were your worst fears confirmed, the pair of you, that things were, going tits up and.
We went in with it with such low expectations.
We did, to be fair.
That when it aired, we were like, yeah, this is kind of what we were anticipating.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah.
Let's just see what happens. Shall we?
I mean, it's early days. It might. The next story looks really good. I think the next one could be quite a good one. We just have to wait and see. Maybe it will build up to something greater. Than the start, but we'll see.
It can only go up from here.
Well, exactly, yeah. And it certainly has, because I think there were moments although I didn't like either story, there were moments in the Space Babies that I enjoyed more than the Church on Ruby Road.
Yeah.
Mainly from the Doctor companion stuff, because I thought that Space Babies did a better job of cementing their relationship and how they work together and their characters. And then I thought, obviously, that Devil's Chord was better again because it was trying to do something very new, very different, and I thought it was done in a pretty good way in terms of like production-wise. Yeah. The writing. Yeah. Having watched it a second time, which we'll discuss a bit later, that, again, the writing seems to be what is letting this down. It seems like it's firing on all cylinders outside of everything but the writing. The writing seems to be a bit like... Yeah. But we'll see.
Nice to see June Hudson, though. That was nice.
Yeah.
That was lovely. Lovely. I did feel like, the thing we said about bloody... The Moffat era, where you don't really see people die on screen and that jeopardy isn't really there. Like Jinx Monsoon was threatening to a degree.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But, I would have liked to have seen June Hudson get eviscerated. Personally,
right.
I think the pulling the curtain back was a little bit more than that. What's that? What are those musical notes?
But I mean,
actually
look, Billy, if he's not going to kill a bogey monster, he ain't going to kill a bloody human being, is he? So
that's true.
So
I'm not saying Shooty Gatwa eviscerates June Hudson.
No, I know, but nevertheless, I mean, I don't know.
I do you know what? I was banking on all of those people coming back to life at the end, and when they didn't, I was very pleased. So so I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I'm happy they all died.
Yeah.
Fucking sadist. Unbelievable. Chronoculars, thanks for the $2. Johnny should get a cut of the t-shirt royalties, so he says.
Ah, there we go. Yeah.
So it's got his name on it.
Let us know if any of you people have bought any of these t-shirts, because I might, see you out and about wearing them, and that would be interesting.
You
right.
You never know.
You never know. How many sales have you had of them? Do you know?
That's the bestseller.
My t-shirt is the bestseller. What, one person?
Yeah. Somebody bought it on a pillow.
Wow!
On a pillow?
Oh my God, you're on someone's cushion.
So they can make love to it, Johnny.
Oh God. This is insane. Oh, I love it. Well done.
You can tell everyone at work tomorrow.
Wow. Someone has a cushion with Hanky Wrangler,
Jonathan,
Toffolo on
my
it.
name
That's
on
great.
it.
My name on it. Oh, brilliant. Love it.
Some complete stranger, someone I've never met before, has my name on it.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you very much, whoever you are. That's very kind of you, if you're watching, listening.
I think they might be. I think, in fact, they might be moderating.
Oh, right.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Oh, fantastic.
I have a feeling.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lovely stuff. Brilliant. Oh, Doctor Who Review 76. I've got the pillow.
Ah,
there
well
we
done.
go.
Oh,
Hey.
Doctor Review 76. Hello there.
Fantastic.
I misattributed that. Nice to see.
That's very kind.
Brilliant.
Bin off Billy and Matt.
Someone's
Johnny,
body
please.
pillow,
All right.
Johnny. Someone put...
I've ascended. God, like our Lord on the ascension.
Yeah,
Oh, there we
dear.
are. Right.
Somebody said, "Can you bin off Matt and Billy for Johnny, please?" So Johnny, you better go before people want more of you.
Oh, right. I better go. Okay.
Oh,
in that
right,
case.
okay.
Right, it's been
well.
lovely to have a chat, Billy.
You're usurping us. It's lovely to
and-
see you, mate.
And yeah, we'll chat again at some stage, no doubt.
See you next week for... we need like a little
Next week for
jingle,
Boom.
don't
A little
we?
jingle,
We need like a little
like, come
Johnny
on.
jingle.
Yeah.
I think every time you walk in, somebody should have a confetti cannon at the ready, so
Oh,
you
yeah,
come
yeah.
in a blaze of glory.
Blaze of glory,
Here
yeah.
he comes.
Flashing lights, disco lights, all that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. that'd be
Work
good,
on it,
wouldn't
Matt. Let's get some production going.
Will do. Right, anyway, take care and don't talk bollocks.
Lovely to see you, mate.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, I'll try my best.
Ciao.
There's a certain level of pressure reviewing the rest of this that now comes to the fact I know Johnny's next door lurking, ready to come back in at a drop of a hat going, "You're talking fucking bollocks."
He went in full teacher mode.
He did. I felt it. Anything else to say about Space Babies before we move on to the Devil's
Chord?
Coitus?
So yeah, like the gags with Nanny. No, I think that's it. I think that's pretty much everything that I can say about Space Babies.
Fine.
Yeah, there we go. So
how many Niconiums out of 10 are you giving it?
I can't remember what I gave the Church on Ruby Road, but the same as that. So whatever that was, like a 2 or a 3.
I think it might have been a 3 to memory.
Okay, I'll give it about the same because, like I said, there were bits that I liked from each one, but overall, it was Meconium City.
Paul Bickley has a great idea: a cloister bell whenever Johnny appears.
Oh, that's a good idea. That is a good idea.
Is a fantastic, and also the Black Guardian's laugh.
Yeah.
And Johnny, whenever Johnny talks, he has to put a crow on his head.
Nice. Okay, we'll get a crow. Stick a crow.
We'll work on that. Okay, on to the Devil's Chord.
Yes.
So interesting pre-credit sequence. I think it went on a bit too long. It's like, okay, we get it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And introduces a very interesting new character that has, possible implications going into next year.
Yeah.
From what we've seen on location. I don't know if you've
yes,
seen that.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So we've got the Harbinger, and we've got
it's like the Milky Way kid, but the Harbinger kid. The Harbinger kid is strong and tough.
He's gonna eviscerate you with musical notes, and then we've got the Maestro.
Yes.
As played by Jinx Monsoon. Great. We like Jinx Monsoon.
She was brilliant. Absolutely superb. I mean, totally chewed the scenery, but that was exactly
that's
what that character
why
needed.
You would hire them.
Exactly.
And exactly what the character is.
Yeah.
And I think adds really nicely to the arsenal of, Toymaker-esque villains. And you totally buy that there's some sort of, League of Super Evil, where they're all, sat around a big table conjuring shit, and the toy maker's at the front and leading the charge.
Yeah. I mean, we always talk about how, a Doctor Who story is only as good as its baddie, and thankfully this story had a proper baddie. It had an actual malevolent villain at its center. I think at times a little bit too shouty. There were a few moments where it was like, okay, you don't need to keep shouting these lines, but I loved the way that they used the sort of like non-binary nature of the character by sort of going from quite feminine traits to then going quite guttural and deeper,
kind of roaring,
and that sort of fluctuation from like feminine to masculine, I think it worked very well and made it very scary and quite unnerving. I think kids would be probably quite terrified, and I think just like the costume changes, they were all great, especially the last one where she's got her own sort of Sergeant Pepper-esque outfit on, which again was like kind of like the toy makers.
Very toy maker.
Yeah. But the makeup was done. It was slightly less, big drag makeup, and it was getting slightly more sort of demonic. It was like black on the inside of the mouth,
on the inside of the gum. Yeah, that was really grim. Yeah,
it was creepy. It was really creepy. So
they've all got either great or terrible dental hygiene. These villains so far. The toy maker's got more teeth than he ought to.
Yes, and
Jinx Monsoon's got this kind of rotting thing going on, which it did sell it. It did kind of look like they gargled with that stuff that Terry Malloy had to use as Davros.
Oh yeah, like
kind
enamel
pokes the inside of his mouth. Yeah, getting grim.
Yeah,
but great look. Great. I mean, would make a fantastic action figure at some point.
Yeah,
with that hair and the nails and the kind of the pointy collar and all of that.
Really cool. Really cool. No, I mean, when it was announced that Jinx Monsoon was going to be in it, I was intrigued and excited because I always liked them on Drag Race, and they did not disappoint. And I hope they get to come back because it was very good.
It would be nice to see them back. What did you think of the maestro starting the theme tune? Because I thought kind of interesting touch. I wish that they just played it all the way through and not faded into the actual titles.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I thought that was great. I was hoping that was going to happen. I was like, please play the theme on the piano. That would be amazing. And they did, and it was fantastic. But I think they either should have, done that and kept the piano going for the full thing. Or Annie said this, and I completely agree with her. She said that in the music, when it does that bum, 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 and then it goes into the ooh, that's when the transition should have happened.
Yeah.
Could have had the piano do the dun, 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 and then the ooh, oh, oh, and they would have gone into the main theme.
Yeah. But I think that it was interesting that obviously they've had to rejig the titles quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I think you can tell that obviously they rejigged them because for the 60th, there was supposed to be a shot of Tennant and Catherine Tate leaning out the TARDIS. That got cut, so the theme gets truncated. Then not only have you got that element as part of it, but they've also redesigned the back end of the whole thing. So it felt a bit out of sync, and the transition then from the piano to the normal theme felt a bit like hasn't quite worked, but I see what you're going for.
Yeah.
And then to have it finish off on the record player as they're pulling out was a nice touch. But again, I think just kind of added to the jankiness of we're having to loop the final kind of couple of bars to make this work.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, I didn't sort of pick up on it on the first time, and then the second time I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, that transition from the titles into the jukebox was a bit like, oh yeah, you can see what they've done there.
Did you like the familial cameo from the pre-credits?
You mean Roger Lim's son? Yeah, that was great. What a nice little, great. All the cameos in this episode. Him, June,
and we had lovely Murray.
And Murray as well. Murray got his time to shine.
I felt that was a little bit of a, oh look, I would have liked it if he'd played the conductor in Abbey Road all the way through, because
that would have been better.
Then have that shot. It's like, why are we focusing on this very handsome, anti-follicled gentleman. It's like it's it just felt a little bit like when a non-Doctor Who fan watches something with you and something happens, like the Galupshito sort of thing.
Yeah,
it was like that. I can imagine a non-Doctor Who fan going, "Who was that supposed to be then?
Yeah,
who are they referencing there?"
Yeah,
it would have been a bit more subtle almost if he'd just been the conductor all the way through.
Yeah, I agree.
But nice to see him.
But it was good to see him.
Shame what he was playing, but we'll get onto that.
We'll get onto that. So yeah, she was great. And I liked the visual aspect of like her powers with the music notes and all that kind of thing. I thought that looked great. I liked all of the way that stuff was directed. I just thought very clever. I thought it was a very original idea that we haven't really had in Doctor Who before outside of the Toy Maker. And I thought, if you're going to be going into these more sort of nebulous characters, these gods of certain things, then this was totally the way to do it.
There's a reference in there about the Doctor and Ruby up to this point having traveled for 6 months together, which I think is kind of interesting. I mean, it does allow Big Finish a lot of leeway. Not that I think Ncuti would be particularly interested in doing that once he leaves Doctor Who, but you never know. Pocket money. I do get the impression they've been hanging out for a while. They've got that chemistry already.
Yeah. It is weird though, isn't it? Because I think we're so used to at least having like the first few episodes being quite close in terms of chronology within the show, that to suddenly go, right, this is your third adventure and you've been hanging around all this time and we haven't really seen it. It felt a bit like, oh, okay.
True. But then, you go back to classic Who and, between the Time Warrior and what comes after the Time Warrior, Dinosaur Invasion, or
Invasion of the Dinosaurs,
there's no reference to how, I mean, that actually, I'll say this and somebody will say, actually that's like the one occurrence where it does happen. There's no reference to how long they've been together for. It's not something they would do in classic Who. It's just
no
new companion established in a story, and then next week they may have been together for 4 hours to 6 years. You know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But there was that whole sequence where they get dressed and it feels a bit like, okay, but you look fine, so I don't know why we're having to do this runway thing.
Both of them could have passed in the 60s, which was quite weird. I think they should have...
And the Doctor could have just come out and said, this is what they're wearing in California.
Yeah.
Nobody knows any different.
It looked vintage. It had a big collar on, so it was like that easily. Yeah, he could have got away with it. They needed to have put them in something very contemporary to make that work.
Yeah, something from the Met Gala, like Ncuti in a meat suit or something, like Lady Gaga. How are we feeling about the TARDIS interior, especially with the funky lighting?
Love it. It's great. Lovely TARDIS.
It does look beautiful.
It's a fab TARDIS. I got to say, like I said earlier on, production-wise, everything's going tickety-boo.
Yeah.
It's just the writing and the plotting, and even in this story, the plot again wafer thin, and some of the logic there doesn't quite make sense. Particularly on a second viewing, I was a bit like, "Oh, hang on a minute, what?" So, like in terms of like the maestro, it's like, well, hang on a minute, they're feeding off music, they're getting rid of music, and it's like, but when they have the
music,
want to
destroy it.
Yeah, but then they have the music battle. I was like, well, surely if the Doctor's flinging music at them, they should just be like, nom, 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 nom. This is great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not having like a music battle. I hated that, by the way. I hated when they went music battle. Like it was some fucking epic rap battles of history YouTube video.
Yeah. That was, for all the Disney money in the world, you can't make a reverse lip sync work.
Yeah,
because that was obviously Jenks throwing the instruments aside and then having to mouth whatever it was backwards, like we're in the fucking Red Room in Twin Peaks, and then doing all of that. That was a little bit naff. And also some of the shots of the piano speeding around
Oh yeah.
were a little bit fucking Scooby-Doo, but you know, whatever. Yes, I think that it would have been better off. Should we talk about the finale, because we're kind of edging towards it already as part of this chat?
Yeah.
That was the thing that killed this episode for me a little bit, and I can't say that it ruined all of it, but as the finale, I kind of feel like they did it the wrong way round, or kind of it could have integrated it better for the sake of the whole story.
Yes.
Where you know, you've got the music battle. It's like, well, that should have been the musical finale.
Yeah.
Or when you've got music back, instead of doing the big Glee number, you should have had the Beatles get that as their song. It doesn't matter if it's not canon. We're in a Doctor Who universe where it's fine if maybe in the Doctor Who universe that first album is another track longer and it's got, you know, let's twist and shite or whatever. You know, that should have been, and then you could have had all the stuff where everybody's in the control room dancing to it, like in that musical number, and then they all kind of conga line out of Abbey Road. And go, right, that's music sorted. I don't think. Okay, we've got the fantastical elements coming into it, but I do hope later in the series when they're connecting all the dots and they're like all these weird, you know, all these weird things that are happening to us, like the coincidences and that fucking shite dance number we did a couple of weeks ago. This is all connected to the toy maker.
Yeah.
Because that, to me, sits alongside the fucking fourth wall breaks that we've been getting. As either we get that filled in and we understand why suddenly Doctor Who is doing fourth wall breaks. Or we're going to be looking at that for time immemorial, and it's going to become a very Merry Christmas to all of you at home, where we all sit there and go, what the fuck is that about?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
I'm slightly worried it's going to become Doctor Who can just do this now. Doctor Who can just do fourth wall breaks.
And I think
I need a bit more than just it can do it.
Yeah, I think that's literally what it was going to be, because I think Russell said, whenever anyone says you can't do that in Doctor Who, I immediately go, yes, we can, and we do it. And then all the people at home go, what did you do that for?
Everybody goes, but like, that's not the same thing as what we talked about in previous episodes, where Russell was saying the toy maker is allowing more fantastical elements to come through. And it's like, in a universe sense, in a story sense, that's why we get characters like the Maestro.
Yes.
But the toy maker is then influencing everything across the universe to suddenly be self-aware and meta about itself. He's not fucking Deadpool.
No.
You know, it's not.
Maybe Deadpool's the one who waits.
That would make sense. That makes more sense. I don't think you can change. That is like a fundamental sea change in the way that the program refers to itself.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's one thing saying, oh yeah, we should go and meet Star Trek in Space Babies.
Maybe Russell's going to turn up at the end.
I wouldn't be shocked.
You know
honestly,
what?
He's been doing enough fucking press stuff.
Yeah.
He's been on the bloody One Show and BBC Breakfast enough.
He was with,
I don't know.
He was in that, what was that magazine that had like shooty David and then like a picture of Russell, and it made it look like Russell was like another Doctor Who.
Another Doctor, yeah. I think for me at the moment, that is the thing that is kind of concerning me slightly, is that we're now suddenly we've become the fucking One Show. And we can look down the barrel of the lens and go, are you enjoying it, folks? You know, like, if that happens at the end of the season and it's like, hang on, that's like fucking never seen a TARDIS before. This must all be leading somewhere. But if it doesn't, I think I'm going to have an issue with that.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because I think, you know, we've seen it before. With the Maestro doing it, I think you can sort of go, okay, well, this is an omnipotent, omnipresent character that exists outside of time and space. So perhaps, you know, they have the power to, you know, see through other dimensions. And so it makes a bit more sense. Obviously, you know, Tom used to do it in and out. Peter Capaldi did it a little bit. But I mean,
I think it's different.
Tom get away with anything.
Tom can get away with anything. And also they weren't making such a fucking meal of it back then.
Yes.
You know, it was just maybe the Doctor's looking slightly off stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just so happens to have directed that line down the barrel of the lens, but that could just be him having an aside of my Sonic isn't working.
Yeah.
It's not quite. This never happened to the other fella.
No,
it's not.
No, yeah.
You know, because that's
totally.
Like fuck off. You know?
Yeah. That is so fucking weird, isn't it? That
bonkers.
Charlie Ashby made a point and said, "I think you're onto something, Billy. It was definitely weird that Ruby mentions both Star Trek because the Doctor says, "Oh, we need to go and see those guys," which was interesting. And Strictly, and then we get nods and cameos in subsequent episodes.
And draw with Cameron Smith, 3 exclamation marks. So I should say, draw with Cameron Smith, says, I've heard a theory that the Doctor and Ruby are on a TV show, given the fact we meet Ruby filming a TV show, and the Legend of Ruby Sunday announcement was all with TV cameras.
Oh, interesting.
So very possibly. I mean, we could be kind of going into meta that way, and that would explain the looks down the lens. That to me is more interesting than who the one who waits is, or you know, the boss of the Meep and all that kind of stuff. I want to know where that's all kind of heading.
And obviously Susan Twist as well. Susan Twist, who we've seen in every episode of Shooty's series so far, Christmas special.
So where did Susan pop up in Space Babies?
She is one of the crew that you see on the screen.
Okay.
And she's also in the next.
She's a tea
lady in Abbey Road, and she's also in the next episode because on the Unleashed clip, they showed a clip of it, and she was in that as well. So
okay, I did see an interesting theory on Twitter about how in the church on Ruby Road, obviously we think that the Doctor is there to kind of spy on Ruby at the gig.
Yeah,
but that actually he's tailing Susan.
Oh, interesting.
He might be kind of, because he turns around and kind of, he doesn't regard her, but he kind of, the fact he turns to her in the Abbey Road canteen.
Yeah.
You know, and he's seen her on the monitors. I would be shocked if it becomes a kind of we've seen her before kind of thing.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
I think I wonder if the Doctor knows, you know, that she's there.
Yeah, well, maybe.
That would be interesting. And talking of Susan, obviously, when we go up to the roof of the dockyard, which I thought in the preview was the roof of Abbey Road, and I was very wrong. Going up to the roof, and we have that really longer than you would imagine if they're not going to come back to it.
Yeah.
Chat about Susan.
Yeah.
What did we think of that?
I mean, again, it felt, like you said, it felt like this, the length of time spent on it made you think, well, surely something's going to come of this, or, you know, there's going to be something to do with the Doctor's family. You know, they're making such a big deal of the fact that the Doctor keeps going on about, oh, I was adopted, you know, I don't know my real family, but the Time Lords were my family, and, you know, I had kids, I've had grandchildren. You know, something's going to happen. There's going to be some revelation to do with the Doctor's family, for sure.
Absolutely.
But it was interesting. I mean, nice to hear about Susan, you know.
Yeah, where's she been?
Yeah, it's been long enough. I like the fact that he also sort of said about, oh, you know, I used to live over there. That was great. What I think he should have said was, I live over there. In fact, I'm over there twice. Because Sylvester McCoy's over there, and there's a load of bloody Daleks.
With some Daleks, absolutely. I did see somebody comment, I think it might have been on Twitter, if the First Doctor and the Seventh Doctor are both in Shoreditch at the same time while the Maestro's fucking about, why aren't they helping out with stuff?
Well, totally,
but it's like, you know, is that a time travel element like when they go to the future of London? And it's like, well, these events haven't actually happened yet because they're playing out in front of us now.
Yes.
So because everything goes back to normal, they don't, you know, there's no effect to what's going on over there. You know?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like that. It's like those events have happened as we've seen them, and now because the Maestro has come out,
it's all gone back to normal.
Oh, yeah, I don't fucking know.
Something like that.
Look, you're not erasing Remembrance of the Daleks. Just put it that way.
Let's put that in gold. I like that the toy maker's still looming over the show with the Doctor hightailing it and saying, I can't do this. I can't deal with this.
Yeah, and interesting, like the Doctor saying, "Oh, it tore my soul apart, and I can't do that again."
Yeah.
I hope that really is true. I hope that I cannot do that again means we will not see another bi-generation again.
I think it is. I think Russell does that quite a lot. Is putting those lines of dialogue in that seem sort of flippant and throwaway in the moment, a bit like the 13 lives in Deadly Assassin, where it's kind of an erroneous kind of like whatever. What does that mean? But I think that Russell is doing that stuff pointedly.
Yeah.
He is kind of putting a line in the sand like that won't happen again.
Yeah.
Without making a big deal of it.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. But interesting, like and the callback because the Maestro did the giggle laugh, didn't they? They were like,
yes.
Ha 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 ha. Was that Woody Woodpecker?
Yeah.
I don't know. Both. Yeah, so that was cool. It was cool to have that little tie-in. The other thing that was interesting about that was the Doctor says to Ruby something akin to, "Oh, when we first met, I said it was like the toy maker, something about the toy maker." Well, that line actually didn't make it in the broadcast episode. That's in the shooting script, but that got cut. But in the script for Church of Ruby Road, the Doctor does say something about the toy maker.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, is it canon or not? Who knows?
If he said, "Don't you remember? If you go back onto the DVD release of Church on Ruby Road and look in the deleted scenes, I said that to you." I mean, maybe that's the way it's going. If it is fucking meta, maybe that's what they should have done. She goes, "So what are the Daleks?" And he gets his collection set out and goes, "Let's watch this one."
Should we try another one, as Tom Baker would say?
Okay, so obviously the Beatles were in
this. Yes.
I was very pleasantly surprised with how they were used in the end.
Okay, all right.
I really liked the I have a dog, you have a dog, I hate cats, that whole song thing that they played. I was like, okay, I see where we're going with this. And then, but come on, to put Scylla on the same fucking level as them, fuck off. Like Scylla Black. Most of Scylla's songs were written by the Beatles, to be fair, especially in the early days. But to then say, like, right, what's the equivalent of what else is happening in the studio at the time? Fucking Scylla Black.
Yeah.
Fucking come on.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. And funny how when we saw her spotlight photo, we went, she fucking looks just like Scylla Black.
Yeah.
And then they made her look nothing like Scylla Black in the actual episode.
Yeah. 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 Mad.
That was a bit of a shock.
And apparently a lot of her stuff got cut because the actresses tweeted about it and said, "Oh, you were victim to the cutting room floor." So I think there was stuff cut with her, probably stuff cut with the Beatles, because I was quite surprised really that the Beatles in a way felt somewhat superfluous to the story, really. Because
I think that's just as well because they're still alive.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I think it's just as well because they didn't look anything fucking like them.
That was probably not helpful. I can see why they cast Paul.
Can you?
In a foggy room with beer goggles on, I can see why they cast Paul.
Right.
When the first shot where he sort of looks through his brow at Shooty, I was like, okay, fine. The hair is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But fine. But then subsequent shots sort of spoilt.
Yeah.
The thing. John was fucking money. He sounded and looked the part.
Okay.
I thought John was really good. Get him out of those fucking glasses and we're there.
Yeah. I think it was a shame that like George and Ringo just disappeared.
George wasn't there at all.
Yeah. He was very upset because George is her favourite, so she was very cross.
I don't think George would have cared, to be completely honest. And then you've got Ringo, Thomas pulled into the station. Like, he's just sort of hanging around. Ringo was used as Ringo was seen, Ringo was the, we'll put it right here on the fridge. Yeah, that was him.
Oh God.
So disappointing to not see George or Ringo, but at the same time, I guess the whole point is the Doctor saves that songwriting partnership of John and Paul.
Yeah.
And then they actually have that, I thought that really nice bit at the end where they all get together and they play, I believe that the chord that banishes the maestro is the final chord from A Day in the Life.
Ah, is it? Because this is what I said to Annie. I was like, at first I thought, oh, is that chord going to be what we've been saying for the last few weeks?
Dang!
Yeah!
Yeah.
But
I think it's A Day in the Life. But
okay.
then that note from A Day in the Life is like maybe like 2 pianos played and a bass and something else. But I think it is the bang from the end of A Day in the Life.
Okay.
Which was nice. And yeah, I thought the Beatles stuff was way better than I thought it was going to be, which is why I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. But for me, that fucking Glee number at the end killed it for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the other thing the issue I had with the Beatles thing was that, I mean, they sort of felt a bit superfluous. But again, it really knuckled down on the idea of like, well, what is actually the logic of this world? Because music's sort of gone, or people not only is music now shit, but people actively don't like music because like the guy who helped lift up the piano was like, oh, what, whistling them tunes, Doc? Don't fancy that. And then John Lennon and Paul McCartney are like, oh, we're doing this, but I can't believe we're doing this. It's like we're prostituting ourselves. It's like, well, why the fuck are you doing it then? Why are people still making music? Why are people listening to music? If music's bad, why are people recording music? Surely this is just like a dead industry. Like that never made any sense.
It went a bit too deep. That I think it would have been easier to say because, okay, here's the Beatles recording their first album. It doesn't sound quite like I remember, but anyway, let's go and see them on the rooftop. And then they go to 1969, and then you see the fucking dead world.
Yeah.
And you go, because the Beatles didn't write good songs because music has been fucked up by the maestro in 1925, there is no... I mean, it's a stretch to say this anyway, but there is now no world peace and the bombs have dropped because the Beatles didn't write All You Need Is Love and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. That makes a lot more sense. I could get behind that. And I think they should have just gone, music is shit, but like within this universe that the maestro has created, this new timeline, people aren't aware that it's shit.
Yeah.
They're not, they just think shit music is what music is.
Because Paul kind of goes, they're rubbish, aren't they?
Yeah.
But they wouldn't, I know that they kind of play the whole, you can feel the music inside of you and it needs to get out. But they wouldn't know either way.
No.
Would they? Like you say, like they wouldn't care.
And it would have still made sense later on when like June Hudson and those other people heard the good music, because it would have still, made them feel something because it was they were listening to good music. So it was like they sort of complicated it unnecessarily. I think
that might come down to the lack of not being able to use Beatle music.
Yeah,
it's like it became too much of a workaround to get to the end, and it
was odd. And I think the bit that made me, both times I watched it, was like, I don't really get what's going on here. When Paul's opening up to the Doctor and he's like, oh, but sometimes I hear this, this chord in my head. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, you're disgusting, you are. And he like storms off. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you, McCartney?
Well, they probably were racists back then.
Do you think that's what?
No. Anyway, I'd fancy another cup of tea. If you could fetch me one, please. I got a great note here from Henry J. Steen.
Yeah.
Just a note that neither Paul nor John could read music. So when they're looking at those notes above the piano, he should have gone,
what the fuck's that?
What's that one again? Is that ding or is that ding? Yeah. So
I wish the Beatles were in every episode of Doctor Who, because just hearing you do your Beatles impressions, which are so good. I mean, it's a shame they just didn't get you in.
I'll do the audio book version of it.
Yeah, they should. They should.
Get touch, and I'll do the audio book. So the Beatles were better than they had any right to be. We like the maestro.
Yeah.
I get the.
Sorry, I loved the bit where the Doctor stops all the sound with the sonic screwdriver. Very cool moment.
Yes, that was
very,
lovely.
Very doctory. It was like, yes, come on, he's had his moment.
I would have liked a bit of an explanation of what was happening while it was happening.
Yeah.
Because it was only afterwards when the maestro was like, "You're trying to block me with sonic beams," or whatever. And it's like, if Shooty had just gone, I'm going to give them a taste of their own medicine or whatever. And then you would have got a bit of an impression of what was happening. But yeah, that whole sequence where they're following the Doctor with the tuning fork.
Yeah, really cool.
That was really, really neat.
Yeah.
All the bursting out of the piano was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
The little Pyramids of Mars callback, that was well done as well.
Lovely. I was saying to Stal, I was like, okay, this is a kind of a throwback. And it's similar to Space Babies in that a tried and tested formula for getting over a certain point. Like we had in Space Babies, basically a whole sequence from the end of the world transposed onto it with the phone. And so my mum's dead, but no, I can speak to her, and there's a big viewing window with a big planet and all of that. To basically just go, well, it's a greatest hit. So what worked back then to get this concept over? We'll do the Pyramids of Mars thing here.
Yeah.
I don't think that personally, looking at this now, I don't think that translates to Sutekh now, this whole season.
No, not at all. I mean, I think this is the thing when people are saying, oh, it's got to be Sutekh because he sat on a chair with a man's hand under his arse for centuries. I think the thing you need to remember is that Sutekh's not like these gods, because Sutekh isn't a god. He is an alien. You know, he is an alien from Phaestra Osiris. You know, he is a god. He is a god to the human beings on the Earth when they came to Egypt. But he is not a god on the same level as the Celestial Toymaker. He may have godlike powers, but it's kind of different. At least that's how I see it. But who knows? Maybe Sutekh will come back. Who knows? I can't see it myself, but
yeah, I guess you just have to listen to the soundtrack, and if Walk Like an Egyptian starts playing in certain parts of this season, we'll know he's on his way. What about the I thought that was non-diegetic music. Do you think that line is also feeding into the fourth wall breaks?
Oh yeah, for sure. I love that though. I thought it was fun.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of that kind of a fourth wall break I'm okay with, because
it's sort of very throwaway, isn't it?
Yes, and if you know the term, then it's funny. If you don't, you look it up and go, "Oh, right, that's what he meant."
Yeah.
But that's different to, a wink. You know.
I see what you mean. It's different if the Doctor turned the sound off with his sonic screwdriver and looked at the camera and went, "Don't adjust your set, folks. I'm just sorting out the maestro." Beryl, don't worry, your hearing aid's working fine. Beryl's not watching this.
Definitely not. Yes. I was more pleasantly surprised by the Devil's Chord, but I think on the whole, I have to go back and watch both of them obviously again.
Yeah.
I think I preferred Space Babies to the Devil's Chord on the whole.
What? You mad bastard. What's wrong with you?
Somebody commented ages ago, but the ship looked like an arse. How could you enjoy it? That's the joke. That's what they were building up to at the end with the big fart cloud. I saw your retweet about they just splattered into a planet. I'm a bit more concerned about the fact that the Doctor's just letting a load of babies loose in a refugee center.
Yeah.
That's not going to go well.
No. What did you think about all that sort of stuff, like the refugee thing and the
It's pointed, and probably, whenever Doctor Who touches on things like that, I do just think, okay, there are some people that need to hear that.
Yes, yeah.
There are some people that need to, because you're not getting it anywhere else.
No.
I think Doctor Who's good for that.
Yeah.
Let's just talk in plain language that, being a refugee isn't fun, and they're not doing it for a laugh. They're not doing it so they can come over here and get a free PlayStation. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's be clear on that. And I think Doctor Who does that well.
Yeah.
I didn't. I was, totally cool with all that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about the twist at the end?
Because we haven't talk about the twists at the end.
Oh boy, why? Why?
That was Draconian.
Yeah, that was. It was such a shame because, like you, I mean, I think I probably enjoyed this episode clearly more than you did, generally speaking. But then that happened, and it was a real like, you were on the verge of like getting through this one quite well, and then you did that. Why?
Yeah.
And
on the Patreon this past week, we had that question of what moments from Doctor Who have you been watching and someone's walked in the room and you've cringed yourself inside out?
Yeah.
That is one of them. And I was watching it with Stell, and she loves musical theatre.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
She's a musical theatre baby. But even she at the end went, "Oh, what was that about? That was rubbish."
Yeah.
It was just a bit too.
God,
my sphincter was fucking clenching like nothing. I've probably got the world's strongest sphincter right now. I was watching it going like, fucking, stop. It went on far too long. Too long.
I mean, I had that sort of moment with the Space Babies, to be honest, when those babies came around in their prams, beeping. I was just like, oh God, I'm glad a lot of my family are no longer around to suffer this.
Dad, I'm,
yeah.
Don't worry, you would have hated this.
Yeah, you would have rang me up and said, "What a load of old shit."
I wish it's nice to see that radio control in Doctor Who has got better than in K9's days, and those babies weren't being driven into the set.
I hope there's a blooper of that happening somewhere.
Maybe that's why they all burst into tears.
Yeah.
I did like that. That did make me laugh every time the Doctor said something like, we're in trouble or something's going to happen. They all just immediately burst into tears and start whining. I thought that tickled me. I think that's why I enjoyed Space Babies more. Is that it did make me laugh.
Okay.
Like
I mean,
I
liked like the Doctor was sort of winding them up a bit. He was teasing them.
Yeah.
That was good. I did like that. It's nice that he's got a sense of humor in that regard. I mean, it's like you said earlier, really, with the twist at the end song. Why did they just not incorporate it into the episode properly? That would have. I mean, let's just get this out of the way. The song's crap. The song is crap. I mean, it's probably worse than the Goblin song. Because at least the Goblin song was catchy.
It's definitely worse than the Goblin song.
And I think it was Who Hats on Twitter said this. It doesn't sound like a song from the 60s. Does it?
No, I mean, if you put jangly guitars over it, it doesn't immediately make it sound like something from the 60s.
It just did not feel like it was from the era. I didn't know what they were going for. It just felt like a shit song. It was just so weird. And then that bit on the zebra crossing when it was bloody, I was like, what is this? Is this Doctor Who or is it big? Yeah. What's going on? Where's Tom Hanks? Is he joining in?
That's another one. I didn't, we were talking about our Rose review not long ago, and we were like, is this show for me anymore kind of thing in that video? It's not made for us anymore. I did leave the house afterwards because obviously, it was the last one I watched before I went to work. I did leave the house with that specific bit with the piano keys on Abbey Road going around in my head. And I did think that is the first time I've thought maybe what they're going for isn't for me now.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I don't think that deeply about it, because ultimately it isn't for me now.
No,
I realistically should not be watching Doctor Who on a midnight release at my age. You know what I mean? I shouldn't be. My first thought shouldn't be new Doctor Who today. Because I'm 27 years old. That's kind of a joke, but when that happened at the end, I did just think, you better have a good explanation for this, Russell.
Yeah.
What the fuck is what's this?
Yeah. I think his explanation is it's fun. Just go with it, which is a bit of a shame,
It's not the same as like when X-Files did a fucking musical episode, though.
No,
this
is it.
As when X-Files did a noir episode. It's just, this is an episode that's got a bit of a wink and a nudge. It's shot in black and white. It's got a bit of a noir sound to it.
Yeah.
But we're not actually looking down the barrel of the lens and going, are you enjoying this?
No.
You know?
Yeah.
Just a bit. Yeah.
Luke Penny has just put, Benjamin Cook insists on Twitter that the musical sequence is more heavily implied in the script, that it's Maestro's version of the state of play from the giggle, so it's the leftover energy from their presence.
Nice, Ben.
Yeah.
Ben, I tell you what, that's great. It's just nobody has the fucking script in front of them when they're watching it at home.
Yeah.
I'm not going, and that line and in 6 months' time when they upload them to BBC Writers' Room, fine. But I'm
90% of the audience aren't going to read that. 90% of the fandom probably ain't going to read that.
No,
to be honest. So it's mad, and I don't need to.
That's fine, but it's not. It's just not an explanation. It's not.
And we shouldn't have to pick up the target novelization for that either. A line would have done that. A line of that would have been like, "What the fuck happened here?" Oh,
yeah,
it's the Maestro. It'll fizzle itself out and
ADR it.
Yeah, there's a million and one ways to get around that. I mean, when I finished watching the episode on Saturday morning, which I kept saying today, I was like, I kind of feel like I've not watched Doctor Who, or like it's not been on, because the way of watching it felt so weird. It didn't have that big build up of like, a couple of hours to go, or half an hour to go.
And then you've got the whole evening scrolling through Twitter or like us chatting and reacting to what's going on. Like it didn't have that.
No, it felt very weird. Like having you say, "Oh, I'm interested to see what you think," and not that sort of simultaneous. We're all watching it at the same time. Feels very weird. I'll be interested to see what the viewing figures are like when the iPlayer figures come out.
Yes, because we should touch on it. That
2 million or something.
Space Babies 2.6 million and Devil's Chord 2.4 million.
So a load of people stuck around, which is good.
Yeah.
And I think I can see why they put both episodes back to back. Whether it was like a Disney thing and that's just what they do, or whether it was Disney saying, we think the first episode's a bit weak, let's give them something else, just to get a real range of what Doctor Who can be. And I think, episode 3 looks again like another completely different facet of Doctor Who, which feels a bit more grounded in sci-fi and feels a bit darker. More of kind of like the Doctor Who that we tend to prefer.
Yes, yeah.
But my big takeaway from and I must just point this out. Draw with Cameron Smith said, I genuinely thought it was going to be a full-blown musical episode. Did you think the same or not? I'm not disappointed, but I don't know. Yeah, I did think it was going to be a fully fledged musical episode and that they were being quiet about it. So I was quite surprised it wasn't. And I think that's why it made the song at the end just feel even more like, well, why wouldn't you incorporate it into the story when you've got this character? It just felt weird. And I think Annie was disappointed that it wasn't. And then I immediately went off and watched a bit of Batman the Brave and the Bold, where they did a fantastic musical episode where Neil Patrick Harris plays the music meister. So
interesting.
It all ties together. Same character, I reckon.
I should say Philip Hawkins is saying viewing figures are just BBC One viewings, not including the first 24 hours of iPlayer. There's no 24-hour iPlayer ratings anyway. Yeah. So you'll get in a week you'll get the 7 days.
Yeah.
Which will include iPlayer. But yeah, like typically iPlayer would add like 1.5 million views, something like that. So it'll be interesting to see. That is going to be, because we won't know the Disney figures, and we'll only know if it's a success on Disney's part if they announce in the next couple of weeks that they're doing a 3rd and 4th drop.
Yeah.
So the actual only measurable way until then that we'll know whether or not this has worked is how many are added on from iPlayer.
Yeah.
Because if that's the release strategy and all the eggs are in the Disney basket, which it is, because you don't make a show with that much money behind it and then are okay getting 2.4 on the overnights, but that doesn't matter anymore. So what matters is what we get on the +7 and the +24. Is it plus? What's the one that comes after that?
Yeah,
+32 or something
like that. I can't remember.
Something like that. That's the only way we're going to be able to measurably figure out if this has worked.
Yes.
Until Disney say, yeah, here's another 2 or here's another 1.
Yeah.
When do you expect we'll know? Because if it was a startling success, I would imagine that we'll hear this week.
Yeah.
But if it's not, then I think they'll wait until the end of this year.
I think they'll at least wait until the end of the season, and then they'll announce it. But we'll have to see. But my big takeaway from this, because I was sort of thinking about who is this for? Like you said, this show isn't for me anymore. I was like, well, who is this show for? And I don't know. I don't know anybody young, other than my nephews, and I don't know if they would really think much of either of these. I'd be is
the gap in your knowledge of young people your nephews and then me?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then maybe some people at work who are younger and cooler than me that smoke and drink and do all the things that I never did or never will do.
Proper legends.
Yeah, proper legends. But my real feeling about it when I came away from it was like, this whole era, Space Babies and the Children We Rode and Devil's Court, it feels to me like Silver Age comic books. So this is comic books from like the 50s and the 60s, where they were really random and wild. Like, this issue, Batman's turned into a gorilla. Why? Who gives a shit? Just roll with it. This week, the Flash is obese. Why? Who cares? It's a cool cover. It will make you want to pick it up. And I know Russell is a big fan of comic books. He's a big fan of DC and Marvel. I know he's a big fan of those particular eras because I've seen them on his bookshelves in different interviews and stuff that he's done. And it really did give me that kind of Adam West, Batman kind of feeling, particularly with like the Maestro, that, this big character with like a very particular modus operandi, almost played like the Joker. It's got a very jokery type performance to it.
Exactly, and all of the conjuring the notes looked like something from a comic book, didn't it? It was very, very literal.
Yeah, very much so. And I was like, I can imagine like a faded old comic book cover for each of these stories. Space Babies is those two huddling up together, babies in arms, and there's a big shadow of a monster. For this one, it's all the music notes. It's Jinx Monsoon, Big Fingers, and the music notes are like puppeteering the Doctor and Ruby. So that was my sort of sense. It was like, Silver Age, 50s, 60s comic books where, Batman's got a zebra suit. Why is he dressed as a zebra suit? Who gives a fuck? But, this is what's happening. He's on an alien planet. Why is that happening? Who cares? This is the deal. And it's that kind of vibe is what I'm getting. I don't know if that's what the new audience want. But
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
2 comments to just look at in the chat. Harry says the Times has reported Russell is writing season 3. That's fine, but like that's not the same as Disney saying we'll have it.
Yes, I think it's just he's planning it.
Yeah, this is a co-production arrangement. So whether or not Russell is writing season 3, if Disney don't want to know, then season 3 will not go on Disney.
Yeah.
And the budget, it will literally just be that you'll go from season 1 and 2 looking and feeling the way that it does now to it shrinking. And we get like almost in contrast, like a kind of Flux style Russell RTD2 kind of season 3, because it will be produced on a BBC budget, so it will be different. And Lucas says, my main worry is the fact season 2 has been filmed and they got no audience feedback on this season yet.
Yes. Yeah.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I think that there's a confidence that comes with what you're doing that only Russell can exude when it comes to Doctor Who. The confidence of season 1
Yeah.
And it coming back in and being like, we've got this, right? But it wasn't produced in the same way where season 2, because series 2 is weak by comparison, especially sandwiched between series 1 and series 3.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I don't think that Russell is one to take feedback on board. I don't think, and that's great because he's not making the show for us. No. If Russell was making the show for us based on our feedback, it would be gothic horror every week and the odd, for me, season 24 story chucked in there.
Yeah.
You know, which to be honest, Space Baby certainly put me in the mind of. Yeah. It felt like a kind of daft season 24 story.
And I think even the Devil's Chord, you know, Jinx Monsoon very much felt like a season 24 baddie.
Absolutely.
Which was fun.
But if this is not translating for, because the fans don't matter, we don't matter. It doesn't matter if it translates to us in the slightest, and that's fine because that's the way it works. But if this doesn't translate to the new Disney audience, and even to the BBC audience, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because they're not the priority anymore. But if it doesn't translate to the BBC audience, to the Disney audience, then series 2 could be trouble.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if it's the same as what we've got here, they haven't had time to take on board, okay, that hasn't quite worked, we'll tweak this, they're not liking blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That could be an issue.
Totally. And I think that's probably the route we're going to go down. Is that season 2 will probably be much more of the same kind of vibe, especially given, you know, the fact that we've seen stuff already that kind of links in with stuff that we saw in the Devil's Chord and stuff. So I do worry. But I do wonder, you know, say Disney did turn around and say, well, actually, we're not interested. But the BBC felt like, well, there's still an audience out there. BBC One still has an audience. And, you know, all right, maybe they do have to find financing elsewhere. But I guess in some ways they're like, well, we've paid off the TARDIS. So we've still got that huge standing set, which looks amazing no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, could they do it? Could they lower the budget elsewhere and just make
it's not like, I mean, Russell said it, and I think the way he said it was a bit flippant and probably doesn't illustrate the truth of it, that it can happen.
Yeah.
But him saying we'll just do ghost stories is a bit like, okay, well, but that's okay as well.
Yeah.
But if Doctor Who becomes more, I think the problem is, and Russell can see it, and he said it before, is you know, the kind of death throes of the BBC, and this does have wider implications. And I'm not just bringing this up because I like to talk about politics or whatever, or I'm trying to virtue signal or any of that kind of shit. But Doctor Who being made at the moment I am fucking regenerating at the moment.
I guess.
Give me 3 seconds, I'm just gonna fix this now.
For audio listeners, Billy's going blind because the sun is in his eyes. But he'll be back with us in a moment. Oh, here he comes. There he is. I was just audio describing what was going on for audio
listeners. Imagine if a really handsome black guy just came and sat down in my place in my same clothes just then. Doctor Who being produced in the current state that media and art is viewed in the UK.
Yeah.
It will mean that the show loses the flash that it's got now.
Yeah.
So either this is a massive success off the bat, which it needed to be, and to Disney it might be, but we haven't seen that yet.
No.
So I agree with you. It is a bit worrying.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be doom and gloom, obviously. And it's classic of us, and certainly classic of Doctor Who fans, to be all, you know, we're 2 hours into this new season and we're already saying it's gonna get cancelled. Classic. That's what Doctor Who fans do. But I think we are at risk if this doesn't take off and people don't like what they saw in series 1 and we get more of the same in series 2, that bet to produce it that way hasn't paid off.
No, that's the worry, you know. And I'm not, we've said like, Doctor Who isn't being made for us anymore. That's fine. If it can carry on and it can get an audience and, the legacy continues, then that's lovely. Obviously we're not turning around saying, oh, bloody hell, just cancel the fucking thing or anything like that.
Not, no.
We don't want that by any stretch. But yeah, let's just hope that it turns out okay in the end. I was thinking, someone just asked if you watched Doctor Who with Stella, which you did. And I was thinking of you and Stella watching Doctor Who because I keep thinking back to you guys watching It's a Sin and you saying that Stella was like, wow, this guy's writing Doctor Who.
Yeah.
How does that translate now after Space Babies and the Jinx Monsoon episode? Is she a bit like...
She had a lot less to say about it than she did for the specials.
Right, okay.
Because the specials, she was really like, yeah. Especially Wild Blue Yonder.
Yeah.
Like occasionally she'll just sort of mention, that was great, that one.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite telling that although we like Space Babies a lot actually, and we were both laughing a lot through it, I think it's quite telling, besides the fact that I've been at work all of last night.
Yeah.
We haven't kind of debriefed about it any more than that. It's like it's happened and it's moved on. Yeah. But then, like we always say, that's a symptom of us growing older.
Yeah.
As a symptom of a relationship falling apart and us not talking to each other anymore. I'm joking. That's just a symptom of we don't put as much stock in Doctor Who as we did when we were younger.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. That is true.
We don't sort of get as vexed about it. It doesn't keep me up at night.
No.
It keeps me up at night in a different way. I think I look at it more at, God, the kind of bigger picture, the longevity of the show. Where does it go from here? I don't get annoyed by individual episodes anymore.
Okay.
So I think that the fact that we haven't debriefed about it and talked about it in the same way is more just, that's just how we treat Doctor Who now. But I think it's important, as doom and gloom as we don't want it to be, it's important to talk about the state of it in Disney's hands, because it's less transparent than it was before, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's it.
You can predict what the BBC are going to do and how they might react to things.
Yeah.
They're making their money off of Doctor Who. So as much as we might go, I didn't really like that episode of Moffat Who or Chibnall Who, they're making their money off of it. Now that burden of pressure is off of them more to a degree, Doctor Who is now in the hands of a company that can very easily and not see it as a blip on their fucking budget chart for the year.
Yeah.
Can very easily go, no, it was nice to have it for 2 years, but we are looking in other areres now.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. I mean, look at the Willow series that came out, and it came and went, in a blink. It was, that was meant to be a big deal for people who like that film. I've never seen it, but that was like a thing that happened, and then it didn't.
I do get a feeling of slight hesitancy from Disney now, because I am seeing people, obviously they had the big launch in New York and LA.
Yeah.
But I've only seen, and it would be good if people in the chat can tell us as we sort of wrap up in a bit. I've seen one billboard in Perth for Shooty Who.
Yeah.
I've seen nothing here.
No.
So if you're in the States, let us know if they're pushing it there.
Yeah.
That's
it feels like that's where it's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel like we've seen anything over here. I mean, there's certainly no billboards or anything, or if there is, not that I've seen. But yeah, it's weird. Going back to Wild Blue Yonder, there was a little nod to that, wasn't there, in the Devil's Chord at the start when the TARDIS materializes, and the Doctor sort of says like, "Oh," the TARDIS makes a weird like noise, and the Doctor's like, "Oh, that's not right," and that Russell said that Wild Blue Yonder and all sort of is all tied in. What does it mean?
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll find out. But also, he had a different sonic screwdriver, red sonic screwdriver.
Yes. Just to go with his outfit, I suppose.
Guess so. Couldn't have couldn't have a blue one with a blue suit.
No, that would be way too much of a clash, and I totally agree with him. But it's kind of like that gold-plated Sonic at Forbidden Planet now. It's kind of like,
yeah.
So we're just doing this to make more Sonics.
Yeah.
Which flavor do you like? Blueberry or strawberry?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be that kind of thing, I suppose.
I guess it is. I think that's it. Yeah. I guess that's it. You'll be getting Sonic screwdrivers in various colors.
So I'm having a look. Nothing in the UK in terms of promo. I've seen several ads in Los Angeles. I reside in Central Texas. I've seen nothing.
Yeah.
I live in Texas. I haven't seen any promo except on Disney Plus. You don't need to promote Doctor Who in the UK. Everyone knows what it is, but they don't know when it's on, Charles.
That's the trouble, isn't it? Yeah.
Hello, Mordy. Come on. Hey. We're looking after a 3-year-old boxer, and she's kind of partly interested in coming in and also a little bit trepidatious. Okay, it's fine. Hello, darling. Hello, sweetheart. Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. I know. So as this dog wiggles into my chair, Matt, what are we saying as we kind of wrap things up?
Well, the only way is up.
The only way is up.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. Anyway, we can only hope. We can only hope. Yeah, bit of a damp squib, I think, for this brave new era of the program. Slightly disappointing, especially after such a cracking set of specials. I was buzzing after the 60th anniversary. All right, the giggle will ended in a bit of a damp squib, but generally speaking, 3 really good stories, and now we've got 3. 2 pretty shit ones and 1 bit better, but you know what I mean? So I'm interested to see where it's going to go. I mean, God, who'd have thought we'd be turning around saying, come on, Stephen Moffat, save us.
And I think he will. I think Boom will be great.
I think he will too. It looks great. I think
that will be the kind of, don't worry, it's still the same show now, guys. Don't worry. It's all good.
Yeah, we still do the stuff that you remember Doctor Who for being, not just this wacky shit. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you for everyone in the chat. Thank you to everybody who donated. Sorry if we missed any donations. But yes, thank you very much for joining us. If you're listening at home after the live stream on the audio platforms, then thank you for listening. We will be back again next time. I guess same time next week. Maybe.
Yeah, it can work for me. So if it works for you,
fine. Let's do that then. Same time next week, 8 p.m. GMT.
Same Batman channel, same Batman March time.
Huge thank you to Macra for moderating, who's very kindly donated to us, saying another fantastic pod as usual, lads. Agreed wholeheartedly with you guys. Have a good day / evening. Thank you, Macra. Thank you for moderating.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, well, let us know what you think about the episodes. If you're listening to this post live stream and you just want to leave a comment below, let us know. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And we shall see you all next time for Boom, as Ace would say. Yeah.
Nice.
Sayonara.
Farewell.